Gamers, if your girl has white hair and lashes, looks absolutely ethereal, is closely related to the Sentinel by resonance or by power, is proficient with sword fights, and is of Eastern origin, then that is not your girl. That is Hiyuki, the Miko from Ashinohara. Hiyuki's existence has been slowly garnering a lot of attention. For those who actually talk to the NPCs in Honami City, massive day for the unemployed for sure. We have been know that she was coming, but now that we know so much more about her, like her design got revealed a few weeks back, alongside her combat reveals, and also the new segue quest in the patch that features her a lot, I feel like that hype is only going to increase all the way until her release. But in the cutthroat world of gacha games, being pretty isn't enough to survive. You need an identity. So the question is, how do you make people care about a trope they have seen 1,000 times? How do you compete in a world where having white hair is apparently a lot more common as a playable character? At this point, if you have white hair, you are basic, with the sole exception of Satoru Gojo, of course. The answer lies in the details, in the way Kuro treats their 3D models, and how they connected their past games with this new world in Wuthering Waves. But well, if you enjoy these kinds of videos where we spend more time analyzing than screaming, feel free to support the channel. It helps me more than you think. Without wasting any more of your time, let's get into why Hiyuki might be the best trap Wuthering Waves has set for their players. Now, obviously, if you have played any anime-styled game before, you would probably have seen this kind of character archetype: white-haired girl with pale fair skin, completely unmatched face card. But I am telling you right now, Kuro Games does it way more than anyone else in the genre. From their previous game, Punishing Gray Raven, until right now in Wuthering Waves. I guess some things just never change, am I right? Fun fact, there are 11 characters in Wuthering Waves that has white or gray hair, closely rivaled by those with red or pink hair. In Punishing Gray Raven, I can't be bothered to count, but you can literally just see how many characters they have with white hair. But you know, that's besides the topic. My point is that Solon loves white-haired waifus. He's my twin for real. But for Hiyuki, we have a long-haired, strong-willed Japanese swordswoman, a kudere, meaning she is cool, calm, and doesn't show much emotion. And that combination alone is enough to generate a guaranteed hit effect to any otaku worth their salt. But no, Kuro isn't just checking boxes here. They are aiming at a very specific type of player. If you have seen her gameplay, Hiyuki is ultra Virgil coded. If you aren't familiar with Devil May Cry, I am surprised, very surprised. But anyways, Virgil is the guy who made the Judgment Cut famous. It is that move where a character unsheathes their sword so fast, you don't even see the swing, and then suddenly, the air around the enemy just explodes in slices. It is so popular that it became a trope of its own. At least one character in an action anime or a shonen anime has that one swordsman that does it. I mean, I can't blame them. This is like the meta in visuals. It just works every single time because the character is just leaking so much aura pressure, it's insane. But that positive point of view of Hiyuki is also one of her biggest problems. As I said, the trope she is made out of is basically super common in today's time. If you're a developer, that is a terrifying spot to be in. When you make a character like this, you aren't just making a character great for the sake of pulls. You are fighting for an identity, right? If Hiyuki is just another sword girl, she is shallow. Hey, I'ma say it. But the real question is, how do you make someone care about a trope they have seen 1,000 times? Seems like the devs found a really good answer though. And to understand why Hiyuki has built up such an insane amount of hype, we have to talk about how Kuro Games actually builds their characters. Because they're doing it so differently from any other game in the genre. Usually in this industry, the 2D promotional splash art is the peak. I mean, of course they are. They should be. First impressions are important because that initial reveal could determine whether a player will pull or skip that character later on. Hype is everything in this genre, and FOMO is the pumping heart of it all. But we have all been there, right? The live stream happens and you see the actual 3D model and you immediately start coping. You try to convince yourself, oh, it's good enough, letting the hype built up from weeks before mask the reality of a subpar 3D character character design. But with Kuro Games, it's the complete opposite. I don't know what they're eating in that developer office, how many femboys they got there, you know what I'm saying? But their freakish ability to consistently make 3D models that look better than their 2D artworks for 2 years without dropping a single time is nothing short of a mythical display of ability. They have built up this reputation brick by brick for as long as Wuthering Waves existed. And I feel like now they are reaping the rewards. A community that is willing to wait for the full reveal before casting judgment. And fortunately for us, Hiyuki is no exception to that rule. When you look at her, the first thing you notice is the texture work, right? Hiyuki's motif is that of a Miko, meaning a shrine maiden. Shrine maidens in gachas are typically portrayed as flowy, elegant, with moments of sharpness depending on their personality. Good examples of these kinds of combative shrine maidens are Hakure Reimu and Sanae Kochiya from the massive Touhou project, but Hiyuki here doesn't attack with magic or projectiles like they do. Hiyuki is a close-ranged fighter, or I don't know, she uses a bow, so she's like mixed-range fighter, but for the most part, she is a highly proficient martial fighter at that, right? Her forte ability allows her to use future possibilities of herself in battle, which is also reflected in her splash arts and her Residence Liberation animation, which we will talk about later. And I feel like the devs are cooking on this because to show that she is highly proficient in fighting, she is not wearing a complete Miko outfit. I mean, obviously, you can see it for yourself. She is wearing the white and red robe with her hair tied up, but for the sash that would typically go around her waist is replaced with body armor that covers the bottom part of her torso, which gives her an elegant but armored look. You know what it feels like? It feels like when you visit the shrines, she would be the one giving you the most aggressive reassurance that the gods are watching over you. Even the way her outfit is styled feels so intentional and just so well designed overall. The top is undone, revealing her bare shoulders and exposing her back. That, to put it simply, in layman terms, is insanely hot. I mean, if you know my drill. Also draws your eye to very specific details, like the mole on her right shoulder or her collarbone. It's a perfect tease. And don't ask me how I found out there's a mole on the right shoulder or the collarbone, blah, blah, blah. You know, that is unimportant to the point at hand. Let's just reappreciate what I found, okay? It's like it's not fan service in the loud, obnoxious way we usually see it, right? It is subtle. It shows you just enough to be interesting without losing the character's cool factor. Because let's be honest, that is what the developers are going for here, right? They have mastered the craft, chat. They are going for my wallet. And then there are the details that feel almost borderline freaky. If you zoom in, and I know some of you will, her feet are textured down to the visible veins. An unnecessary level of detail that serves no gameplay purpose. But as Solon Lee loves to say, I can assure you, dear viewer, a very detailed look on Hiyuki's feet was absolutely critical to the plot. But as impressive as she looks standing still, it is when she starts moving that the real magic happens. That is where the animation team takes over. If the model is the hook, then the animations are the sinker. Kuro Games has a very specific language they use for combat, a way of communicating through movement. And I don't want to hear nobody say, oh, it's too much visual effects. Boo-hoo, brother, play another game. This is how we WooWa players like it. Animations like these, just fluid and visually appealing combats, just one of the many reasons why I love the game, you know what I'm saying? As per usual, Kuro is creative with their use of cinematic letterboxing. You know those black bars that appear at the top and bottom of the screen? They use that in Hiyuki's ultimate ability. I mean, if you have paid any attention to the game, this has been a standard as of recent, with Augusta, Lene, and now with Hiyuki. The focus as she slowly unsheaths her blade, with it outside of the letterbox to give it special focus, the diagonal positioning to give the liberation a dynamic look as well as to seamlessly change her red Miko outfit to a blue one. It's perfect! It's peak! Down to the very last minute detail, a visual shorthand, you know, like a quick way of showing that she is entering a different state of being. But the real chef's kiss moment is the impact frame. An impact frame is basically a few frames of animations where the colors go haywire to really emphasize a hit. So without impact frames, it's like boom, boom. With impact frames, it goes And for those of you with sharp eyes and a rather obsessive deep connection to the game, you may have noticed that there is an impact frame during the last moments of her unsheathing, the only part with color being her eyes. It is a tiny detail, but it makes the final unsheathing feel so much more incredibly heavy. I love the way Kuro Games does their impact frames because it just feels so intentional. It's not the lazy kind where they were like, oh yeah, let me just recolor this next frame black and white. It's like they actually know what they're doing, you know? But it's not over, because during her second liberation, what, this guy has 2 ultimates? Yeah, it has become pretty commonplace for push characters especially. 𝗖𝗆 has 4, by the way, but it starts with a chime from her Suzu and a dance, showing that indeed is a Miko, before she breaks the letterboxing to give impact, while the glass shards represents her alternate selves. There is also a giant crystal bonsai that we see at the end of her ultimates, but Kuro has a history, you know? They have been in this genre for years, and I'm not talking about Wuthering Waves, because for Hiyuki and for some others, there are characters from their previous game who basically paved the way for the characters in Wuthering Waves. If you have played Punishing Gray Raven before or consumed its content for any amount of time, it probably feels like you have seen Hiyuki before. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between, the elephant in the room is being addressed right now. Hiyuki is incredibly alpha coded, you know? Tied up white long hair, wields a sword. Her posture to the way she snaps her sword back to its sheath is a direct reference to the very fan favorite character from PGR, Alpha. Kuro Games knows what their players like, you know? And they are giving us a new version of it in a completely separate game. But hey, don't look at me, I'm not complaining. Even her name, you know, it feels like a riddle for the lore nerds. In Japanese, her name is Hiyuki. The Yuki part means snow, which fits that cold, white-haired look she got going on. But the He means scarlet. And now if you look at some of Alpha's different forms in PGR, they are called Crimson Abyss and Crimson Weave. If you really want to get nerdy about it, the word for crimson in Japanese can be read as cool. If her name was Kuyuki, she would literally be Crimson Snow. Kuro went with scarlet instead, which is basically the same color, but it is just different enough to keep us guessing, you know? But the characters need more than just good design to be cool, and Hiyuki has that in spades. Hiyuki is close to 𝗖cie𝗽𝗆𝗵𝗁, the president of Star Torch Academy, and is trusted by her to be one of the strongest contingency plans against Aleph 1. Even going so far as to say that even if Aleph 1 were to consume the research institutes, they still have one final card to play. The segue quest in 3.2 also says that Hiyuki's job is to go out to corrupted zones to save students and important personnel, and was even mentioned in passing by a few NPCs around Star Torch saying that 𝗖cie𝗽𝗆𝗵𝗁 was seen with a Miko, although no security footage of her exists. This disappearing act has landed her a position as one of Star Torch's 7 mysteries. She is also, according to the NPCs and Honami, apparently equal to strength or stronger than Ashinohara's Sentinel. But of course, the real problem was never the characters, it is always the money, the resources. And for Hiyuki, she might be the biggest problem we would have to face yet. She might be an absolute peak character for you. I mean, come on guys. Sullenly knows you, studies you, to the point where Hiyuki turns out this way. The way she looks, the way she moves, the way she fights, and her story is, you know, she's just magnifique. And that's the problem, because this seemingly perfect character comes at the most expensive time possible, sandwiched between the anniversary patch and the upcoming Cyberpunk collaboration. Should you go all in for the Scarlet Snow, or do you save it for the major collaboration? It's a trap for sure, but the trap only works because the bait is so high quality. But of course, the highest rule in gacha gaming, that is very respected in Wuthering Waves, by the way, waifu over meta. You pull for whoever you want to pull. It doesn't matter whether she's actually strong or not, meta defining or whatever. You play who you want to play. Most of them are strong enough if you actually just learn the game properly, but I want to know where you stand on the matter. Does Hiyuki's polish make her a must-have for you, or is the risk of missing out on the Cyberpunk collab is just too high for your account to handle? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, but that is all from me, 𝗖𝗆𝗆𝗆𝗆, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers!